Welcome to Conversations with Personal Finance Champions, where we talk with leaders in the industry looking to advance economic empowerment through financial education. Today, we have a great guest, Craig Hill. He is a fintech leader. And for those of you looking to integrate technology into the classroom, and for others of you that are looking to build a fintech-based product, he's going to be a great resource for us today. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get right in. Without further ado, welcome, Craig.
All right, great. Thanks, Vince. Happy to be here. Appreciate the invitation.
Glad you're here, and you have an interesting background. 18 years in the steel industry, steel manufacturing. You could have gone a lot of ways, but you ended up here in the financial education technology space. What brought you here?
Well, that's a really good question. Some days I wake up and I think about that very thing. But as you said, I spent 18 years in the steel industry and 30 plus years in manufacturing, and have always, I suppose, been somewhat of a data and technology nerd, always trying to find ways to make data make, easier to access, to make decisions better, and so forth. And I had just begun with an idea of taking publicly available data and making it usable for easier access for people. Really, initially, I was going to go build the next great budgeting app, but it really morphed into more of the technology behind it. And so we sold that company, stepped away, decided to focus full time on nurturing this idea as my first entrepreneurial venture. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's always longer and harder than you ever imagine, but I've made a lot of great connections and have thoroughly enjoyed the journey. And I think we can make a difference. So I'm excited to keep learning and happy to affiliate with the NFEC and all of its members. So here we are. It is quite a change from the steel industry, though. I can tell you that.
I'm sure it is. And, we have a lot of people from various industries that always had a passion for financial education. Maybe they had it during their work career and so forth. And I think you'd be a great guest to share this with people because a lot of people I'll have conversations with, they'll say, well, I don't really have experience as an educator. I don't have experience in the financial industry, but I'm passionate about it. I wish I was taught about money when I was younger. I want to make a difference. Like you said, I want to be helping people avoid common financial problems. And if you could share with those people that may be from outside industries, some of the skill sets you developed in the manufacturing industry that you carried over, and just any advice you would have for them as far as following their passion. I think that would be very useful for a lot of people.
Oh, happy to. I'll first say that the one thing that I have learned through, again, this is my first entrepreneurial venture, and as I've this whole concept of a predictive approach to budgeting, for example, or peer comparative metrics to help people understand perspective of what is it going to cost to live in this area. If I graduate with this degree, what can I expect for an earnings situation and so forth. I'll confess that early on I bit off way too much. I should have focused much more narrowly on specific solve one specific problem in a very, very unique and thorough way, and try to become as expert as you can in that one area. In my background, I had many years in data of all types. I headed up the IT functions that reported up through me. I was responsible for a lot of the KPI metrics we were tracking and so forth. And Excel is, kind of something I've been comfortable with for years and years. And that's where I initially actually built this technology. Originally, I built it in an actual Excel workbook because that's the only language I could write in. I'm not a coder. I'm one of those unique fintech founders who is not a coder. So, but I have found people to help me with that aspect of it. But my advice to people is they're looking at in other areas outside of education, find a problem that you think you can really, really help solve and focus on it maniacally, to the exclusion of many other shiny objects, which I have been very guilty of, as many first time founders are. And that's, I probably would be, um, I'd probably still have a little more money in the bank and probably further down the road had I learned those earlier. But we're happy where we are today and excited about that.
That's great advice, great guidance. And yeah, the processes, procedures, that type of focus, the knowledge of Excel, that all lended you to this industry, which is great. But I can relate to the shiny object syndrome. Founding this company 18 years ago now, I'd go to all these seminars and in different events where they teach you how to build a business and, start an e-sign, get a newsletter, do social. They listed 50 things to do and I was everywhere. So I can definitely relate. I'll spend a lot of money in areas I should not. So for everybody
Yeah.
out there, I think Craig really gave us a golden nugget. Focus on a niche initially, build out around your strengths, and then you can expand into other areas from there. And once we started to do that, I think
Absolutely.
our company as a whole was greatly enhanced as well as far as progress moving forward.
Yeah.
But I think that is a great piece of advice for those that are starting out or considering getting into this industry. And Craig, you alluded to what you do at SPENDiD. Now, this is a company you founded, and just a great organization, predictive technology, and some of the things I like about it. A lot of it's reality based. If you can get into
Mhm.
some of what you're doing as far as your product lines, some of the benefits you see for educators using your products in the classroom, that would be helpful.
Sure, absolutely. SPENDiD again, the company name and the core technology of what SPENDiD is in the back end. SPENDiD is an API set of data and calculations that predicts spending behavior and budget modeling based upon a few given demographic factors about the user. It could be their current situation, it could be their future situation. So, for example, the thing I'm most excited about right now is we haven't officially launched this yet, but a product called Grad Budget. Gradbudget.com is a website we've spun up, and it's still in some iteration. But the Grad Budget platform, which is kind of parallel to our not education focused, but more like employee benefit focused platform called My Budget Report. They're all really one and the same, but I've learned, and this is where I should have stayed focused early on, the predictive nature of what SPENDiD's technology does through Grad Budget is, I think, ideal for teaching financial literacy and financial education to get students comfortable with the habit and the practice of simulation. What if you're going to be this profession and you want to live in this zip code, and we can show you instantly what that demographic cost of life is likely to be, so that we can hopefully steer students to avoid some of the mistakes I know I made when I got out of school 100 years ago, of living a little beyond your means. You don't think about every cost of life. Talking about money was not big in my home, so we didn't have any, and so it's something that data and technology can help fill the gap. So Grad Budget, for example, is I think will become our flagship product for young people to understand the financial facts of life before they get out in the real world, and maybe before they make mistakes of digging a debt hole, biting off too much rent, buying a car they don't need to pay, they don't need that much of a car payment, and so forth. Because those decisions early on are going to dictate how much reliance that these people have on too much credit card debt. We certainly don't want people to have a damaged credit score by missed payments and so forth. So, Grad Budget is designed to be a predictive, preventive approach to making better decisions early in life. So that's the primary aspect. Now the other technology, like Grad Budget and My Budget Report, those kind of two go hand in hand. They're just kind of two different names for the same platform. But our API itself is separate conversations that I'm trying to set aside. These are shiny object conversations of credit metrics, ability to pay, scoring for the banking industry, and so forth. Those things I think will come one day in the future for SPENDiD. But I think right now, I'm that's one reason I'm happy to affiliate with the NFEC is make those connections to perhaps expose grad budget to the industry, learn what needs to be different about it, what do we need to do to improve and iterate, because you're never finished. You're never finished. It just
Right.
always has to keep changing.
Yeah.
So it's a web-based platform. There's no downloading. It's mobile responsive and everything that you want it to be, to make it easy to access and use repeatedly. So I'm excited about it, and I'm looking forward to getting some feedback.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to demo grad budget, and the thing I liked about it, real world simulation. And we look at education methodologies and best practices, simulations up there because it's giving them a real world experience similar to project-based learning, gives them the ability to experiment. And one of the things that one of our programs that we had early on when we founded this company was real money experience, where we had students go around to these various booths. I think there were 16 or 18 different booths, and make financial decisions that they would face in the real world. However, our choices were limited just simply because of the time and other constraints, life setting. So we couldn't let them explore the various careers they were interested in. They were given a choice of a few. They were given a choice of a few cars, a few places to rent, etc. The thing I really liked about what you did there is that it really expanded that to include their interest, right? Hey, maybe I don't want to be a teacher, but I want to be a biochemist, or I don't want to be a biochemist, but I want to be an actor, right? What does that income look like for me? And then I love the predictive technology part where it's showing them what a common budget is for somebody in their age group and range. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
kids don't know, and I remember back to those the real money experience days after we do interviews with them, and the common things we heard was, "I can't believe my parents are paying all this," and life is expensive, right? So for them to
Amen.
be able to understand this in a safe and secure setting, I think is key.
Yeah.
One thing I do, want to mention about that too is a lot of educators and people in the space, they're treating some education as one and done, meaning, okay, I'm going to do grad budget one time and then done. But I think when you're doing simulations like this, where kids are considering what career to go in, what lifestyle to live, and so forth, there's a lot of changes. Think back to your teenage years,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of changes between 13 to 24. A lot goes on mentally there. And I would make the case that a tool like this and just education in general, financial education in general, career planning in general, should be spread out over years. And this seems like a project that they can do multiple times over the years and get different results and experiment. I love the aspect of the
Yeah.
experimentation. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I totally agree. And the worst thing that could happen for uh, even for us as a company, or really for any use case of our product, would be for someone to say, "Here, use this one time. Print out your results, and then never touch the application again." And because that will, without a doubt, that first scenario that someone creates, that is not going to be their real life in the future.
Yeah.
The what we were able to do so far was we were able to capture. There's an enormous amount of data out there about what does certain careers pay, and what does it cost to rent apartments by zip code all over across the country, and what is average spending on every category by income, age, household size, and so forth. So we combined all that into a model that makes it easy for users, students especially, young people, I mean, maybe from like eighth grade on up through college, um, to repetitiously uh, play what if I want to be a a biochemist, or if I want to, or it doesn't even have to be necessarily a college style career. We have income data and so forth from every trade you can imagine, from carpentry to
Mm,
bricklayers to pipe layers, every profession imaginable. Um, we can, quickly, populate. What does that pay? What if I'm living in this area, and what if it's, if I'm, married with a kid, and what, so all these things serve to define what is the cost of life probably going to be, so you can anticipate before you get there. Um, are you going to have to supplement that income? Is it going to have to be a two earner household for a period of time, or so forth? So there's just an infinite number of decisions that can be made with this what if, and it's, the old saying, practice, practice, practice. You think about the best in the world at things out there, whether it's Tom Brady at quarterback, or Kobe Bryant in basketball, whatever. They did the same thing over and over and over again until they were so comfortable that they could do it, without even thinking about it.
sure.
And my belief is that budgeting should be that simple, that you just populate it with some changes to your assumptions. You refer to it repeatedly, and understand perspectives of, and we have some really kind of fun, cool. There's a lot more coming later of some AI generated content to speak to the user about what this decision might look like or may result in, or so forth. So it's something that I hope one day will be in place in education to be used, repeatedly, and have students, again, avoid mistakes before they make them,
Hmm.
because that is the best ROI they could ever get, is to not dig a debt hole, not make. I like to say, make the miracle of compound interest work for you instead of against you, because it'll
Yeah.
destroy you if you let it. But if you are able to set up a lifestyle of positive cash flow from the beginning, there is people. Kids are shocked when they look and see how much they can save if they start early, how much they can accumulate later in life if they simply start out in a disciplined fashion. And it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't. I mean, like, awareness of it and the knowledge of it doesn't have to be hard. I'm not saying life's just going to be easy, but there should be no excuse for not knowing what this career would look like, what the cost of living in this area would be, and so forth. So that what if, and the repetitious capability of revisiting it. We've even tried that. We're working on an automatic lesson plan generator inside the platform for, uh, you know if a teacher wants to look at, I want to create a 10-week lesson plan. We have our AI trained to help offer that. So we're trying to help make it friendly, not only for the user, but also friendly and simple for an educator. And this is where I have a lot to learn from educators themselves about, is that helpful, and so forth. So I'm looking forward to those conversations as grad budget hopefully becomes part of the some some teachers and schools curriculum ideas down the road. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, like what you said, I want to circle back to the repetition and also what you said at the very beginning of the show here about the common mistakes youth made, because I want to go into the last point you made about educators. And I think this does a great thing. Bringing technology into the classroom does a few things I think that are best practices as far as teaching. One of the big things is it shifts an educator from a teacher and a lecturer to a facilitator, where
Mm-hmm.
they can go around as these kids are filling out their grad budgets and deciding on careers and going through these simulations. The teacher can walk around the room, have conversations with the youth, help ask questions that may direct their career. I think you brought up another good point I'll touch on here, where it brings up jobs that don't require college. And I think most of
Mm-hmm.
schooling career, elementary and high schools, focus on go to college, go to college, go to college, and then that's it. That's the end of the goal plan for them. So I like that includes that. And teachers can have very great conversations with these kids about helping to shape their career. Maybe a kid, let's going back to that a chemical engineer profession. Say, hey, what profession did you pick? Chemical engineer. Well, okay, let's talk about that. Why'd you pick that? Oh, my dad's that. Right. Okay. And do you like science and chemistry and biology? No, I don't like that at all. Do you like math? No, not at all. Well, maybe explore a different career. But a lot of kids and people, they explore careers they're familiar with because either parents are involved. One of the big careers that youth in America explore, besides some of the top five YouTube star, athlete, celebrity, etc., is teachers. And we had a conversation with our board about that, and it's because every kid's exposed to teachers. I had the idea to go in the military and be a policeman because my dad that was his path. And he's like, you don't follow rules, you're not going to be in there. You like to do your own thing. I said, probably valid point, right? But I wanted to go down that path as well. So I think that ability to explore, and where the teacher is that facilitator and having conversations and not up in front lecture. I think that's a big thing as far as education, and any educator out there, make sure, hey, you're taking time away from the lecture to do these things where you can connect with the classroom. And I think there's some great opportunity there. I think there's also great opportunity with your product line as far as the back end, the insights into students, where they're going, what they're exploring. Can you tell us about that tracking capability and the analytics capability within your program?
Well, the if I understand correctly, what we do as far as analytics, like of the dashboard of a group administrator of the
Mhm.
grad budget platform, a teacher can, for example, again, I mentioned the lesson plan generator capability, but every student, every user of the platform can save their report scenario that they've created, and it's stored in their own personal library of records by date, and that budget model, that predictive financial lifestyle model, whatever you would like to call it, is there to be retrieved, and they can resume and pick up from there anytime they like. And also the teacher slash administrator of the group, whether it's a classroom or it's an entire school, can monitor analytics of engagement. When was the last time uh, uh, Billy or Martha logged into the platform? What's the overall engagement rate? If it's in an education situation that is voluntary, say for example, if a community college is offering grad budget, they can look and see, how frequently are students interacting with the tool, and so forth. So we tried to offer some meaningful, simple engagement analytics. It can even score the overall, if it's a live situation of a say of an employer offering it as a employee health benefit or employee wellness benefit. They wouldn't see the specific user information, but they could see the engagement by their workforce, their overall the overall budget health scores of their workforce as a whole. Which I know that I, as a manager and a CFO in the past, would have loved to have had data to point to when I'm having conversations with the CEO about the workforce, and we're thinking about what the financial plan should be for next year's budgeting for the pay raise and so forth, because the the financial wellness and health of your workforce, you don't need to get into too much granularity individual by individuals, but as a whole, employers need to understand the struggles and the challenges that their workforce are facing. But back to the education side, I think the analytics and the measurables that can be put out there for teachers to create lesson plans. To maybe they could assign. Here's a fun example that I like to talk about is a teacher could assign For example, professions or career paths or something that they know the student probably is not going to likely pursue. But what you're doing is you're training that muscle of what if. What if, you know, uh, I were going to become some, I'm 14, 15 years old, and I'm an introvert, and I have no desire to stand up in front of people, but I'm gonna. What if my career was to be an actor, and maybe you can pull someone out of their own shell by assigning them professions and careers that maybe they don't think they're interested in. But what you're doing is you're training them in the practice and the muscle memory of analyzing what a budget lifestyle could look like. Think about an area of the country that they may never have thought of living in. But again, you're teaching them to think about the future in realistic, peer proven terms. And people's spending generally falls in a bell curve of for most categories. So we can predict with reasonable certainty what that person's probably going to spend on groceries and dining out and so forth based upon their income and how many mouths they're feeding and so forth. But they also need to understand if they're going to buy a house, they need to. My son's going through this right now. They just bought a house and it's eating money from the standpoint of maintenance,
Yeah.
different home services they've got to line up. They've got right now they think they have a squirrel in their attic, so they got to hire somebody to come in and get that squirrel out of their attic. Those are
Yeah.
things you don't. As a renter, you don't worry about that kind of
You don't
stuff.
think
But you
about it.
go
Yeah, it's
buy a
one
house.
call. Yeah.
So anyway, those all in costs of life, we can paint a picture and train them to again repetitiously get versed at that, and we can provide instructors analytics of all right is each student engaging with the tool. They can save their reports.
Yeah, I think
Teachers
that
can
report saving is critical. I mean, that's for the student and the teacher, if they're turning that in,
absolutely
able to
absolutely
see what the kid's been doing, seeing where the general class is, and that can help shape how they're
Mhm.
communicating with class. If most of the class is picking trade-based professions, maybe they shift some of the lessons to less college focus and more, hey,
Right.
what it's like to move out on their own. So I love that report. I think for the teacher, if they're turning in, and also for the student, it's always neat to reflect. Oh, I was, ninth grade, now I'm a senior. Oh, look how much I changed. Look how much I've developed. And I think that also helps them to feel, hey, I have momentum. I'm creating a plan. I'm progressing. All positive things when you think about, helping people develop
Yeah.
confidence to make decisions. The other thing I like that you said, it was higher order thinking skill sets. Most financial education out there, it's focused on recall, reproduction, like remembering, understanding, explain. You're talking about analysis, creation. If we look at Bloom's hierarchy, a taxonomy of higher order thinking skill sets, Webb's depth of knowledge, those are all high order thinking skill sets. What that means to those not in education, that is, it increases retention, it increases confidence, it reduces learning loss, and they're actually applying what they've learned into real situations. So everything you mentioned there, as you're saying, being able to analyze, create their own plan, and so forth, those are all high order thinking skill sets that I love. And I want to circle back to something you said earlier too about repetition, because I think that's a big part of being able to apply what you've learned, and also recognizing the common mistakes. At the top of the hour, you said, hey, there's common mistakes youth make. We all know it: getting into debt, making credit mistakes, messing up on rent, not managing your accounts right, late paid bills. These are all, there's a dozen common mistakes that most youth make, myself included on many of those, and yet we're not teaching that in schools. And when we are, if we look at the school, life cycle from elementary to high school, kids are getting 10,000 hours of general education, English, math, science, etc., mostly STEM-based classes where less than 10% of people ever go into that space, and less than 20 hours total of financial education. So with it as it stands, that repetition within the school system's going to be very hard to come by and to do. And I know you're a big advocate. I know you serve on our Illinois Financial Educators Council advisory board, and we're appreciative of that. The other thing is most students will never receive any type of career education. So you go through, elementary, high school, and no career education. Maybe, when you're kindergarten, something they'll show you, hey, this is a policeman, fireman, nurse, doctor, etc. But
Hmm.
never really in-depth career education. I went through my entire education career, grade school, high school, college, never any career education, no exploration of that. And then you're asking 17, 18-year-olds to make one of the biggest financial decisions, and sometimes for some people, the biggest financial decision
Oh yeah.
of their life. Let's focus on that career planning first. I mean, how important do you think that is, and what problems do you see that causing kids that have never been exposed to careers, have no idea what they want to do, and then are told to kind of figure things out when they graduate high school or go into college?
Yeah, well, it's a critical point because, as you said, the profession you choose um, really is going to define the boundaries of what your earning potential can be, which is, it doesn't, you don't have to be in a super high earning potential to live a fulfilling life and be happy and financially stable. But uh, the realities are that kids too often are unaware totally of the true earning likelihood, especially in the early years, versus the cost of student debt they pile up to get that degree that leads to this occupation that only pays X. So,
Yeah,
just clear awareness and truth data about career preparedness and understanding is something that I think is super important. One thing we baked into the platform is if when the user, the student, they select if they want to look by occupation as opposed to just entering an income number. If they're looking by occupation and they select low, median, and high range income of that occupation, we display for them a little bit of snapshot information about what type of person would generally succeed in this profession, what aptitudes would you probably need to have, what does the future look like for this career, based upon, I mean, um, there are some careers that are just a dying breed. I mean, if you're gonna uh, you can think of several things that we just don't have them anymore. Those aren't the ones you're probably going to want to pursue and study for. But we can tell them with a little bit of certainty that that is a growing profession, or these are the skill sets that are generally required, and so forth. So, and this is for 800 and some odd occupations again, as we
wow,
said. And this, the data that we have, I mean, it is U.S. government sourced from the Census Bureau, but we put it in a format, and this is where we try to be different and user friendly. We put it where it's easy to interact with.
mm,
And then that feeds, if they choose an occupation, that feeds the budget projection, uh, by putting in a zip code, how many people, how old, are you renting or owning or whatever, and we can quickly show them a model, and then they can refine the model based upon, well, I think I can rent for this much money, or my car payment's this, which is different than what the model is, and we can still show them their predicted saving ability, give them a score, a budget health score, how it stacks up to the benchmark norms and so forth. So if they do that and they understand the occupation side clearly, not only the earning potential of it, but their aptitude to that career. And there are countless other smarter people than me about career readiness, and there are tests and things out there that students really really need to understand career readiness and what their aptitude is for.
true.
But the data we have in there, at least to me, is a good start, and something that I think teachers would hopefully they will welcome the opportunity to expose their kids to. And what I really like about it is this is something that kids can do anytime they want. This is not a classroom only
Hmm.
exercise. This so
True.
they can take it home and use it at any time, create their own simulations, and even I suppose even share it with the family and let them tinker with it and so forth. Because
Boy, yeah. As a
kids have
parent,
families who are struggling as well. So
yeah.
that's and plenty of parents could probably use some of the knowledge we're trying to help convey. So
I think it'd be a great activity. I mean, parents, you need to understand schools aren't teaching personal finance in any depth that will make a difference in your kids' lives. And, a lot of people say, well, you're talking career planning. Well, career planning is personal finance as well, because if you don't have money coming in, what are you going to manage? So you need money coming in, which is key. But I
absolutely,
think for parents to be able to sit down, have their kids go through this, we've been talking about the classroom and the likelihood of any major change happening within the academic system in any near future is slim to none. Just the way everybody has their own stakeholders and policies, it's just tough to navigate and actually break through. The states with the highest standards only have one semester, which is not enough to really make a real difference. And so
yeah.
parents,
It's not enough, and it does it wins accolades, and it's a step in the right direction, obviously, but it's not enough, and there has to be. What I'm trying to do is bring in a very pragmatic feature that students and teachers can utilize because financial literacy, so much of it begins with the assumption that you have money to do something with.
true.
Investing in 401ks and retirement planning and mortgages and all this and all that's fine and good.
Yeah,
But first of all, you have to have a positive cash flow situation,
money coming in.
and
Yeah,
we got to have more coming in than you got going out. And if we can position students to understand that earlier and make decisions earlier, that results in a green number at the bottom instead of a red number at the bottom, then all the other financial literacy will be useful. And so I'm going to leave it to everybody else to offer tools and all the other elements of those types of financial literacy. I'm focused with grad budget. What we're trying to do is offer a practical, highly focused, cash flow based education tool that hopefully can make a difference in a lot of young people's lives one day.
yeah. I think you're right on line. And again, just the takeaway here from Craig and I, parents, make sure your kids are getting the education. I think this could be a great tool as well. And I want to shift focus a little bit. I know we've talked a lot about the importance of bringing this into schools, parent involvement, the importance of simulation, reality-based numbers, and actually have kids experiment. But I want to shift now because we do get a lot of people that come to us and saying, "Hey, I have this vision to build this technology-based product." And I would say, "Hey, that's great." One of the first questions I have is, "Hey, what's your budget?" And try to get into just to understand their vision. And I find a lot of people have just their path, their planning is missing a few pieces, especially on the budget timeline. And I think you can add some great insight there. So if somebody came to you and said, "Hey, I have this idea for this fintech type education product." What are some of the key things you would share with them? Maybe some of the steps or processes or guidelines you would follow if you did this over from scratch. In addition, maybe some pitfalls to avoid as well.
Well, I certainly have stepped in more pitfalls probably in this journey than I wish I had. And again, a lot of this comes from I had a pretty good career in the steel industry, and we did well, and sold that company and all this kind of fun stuff. But that has zero to do with starting a fintech company for the first time as a first time entrepreneur. And much of that background for me probably worked against me and led me to going about things a little bit. It's too much. Build it and then they will come. I would say absolutely that is not the case. Had I known then what I know now, it would have been focus heavily on a non-scalable, very rudimentary MVP, and then go talk to customers. Go talk to
Let me just
those
jump
who
in there. MVP, minimal viable product.
minimum viable product. Build a minimum viable product that it can be and this is where I struggled. I always wanted it to be perfect, and I was not ready to put it out because I had one glitch here or whatever. It needs to be ugly and clumsy. It needs to just display the concept. So if you have a great idea, especially in the fintech and education market and so forth, if all you do is sketch it out in a non-functional spreadsheet or something, and go talk to potential adopters or who your target audience might be. We talk about ICPs, your ideal customer profile. Talk to them, get their feedback. Are you even trying to solve a problem that needs a new solution? They may say, well, look, we've got 100 of those solutions over here to choose from to do what you're doing. I would rather know that early than go out and spend a lot of money building and developing a fintech solution that is, a poor knockoff of 100 other things that already do it well. So keep it very rough and simple in the beginning. Don't go out and spend money with high-priced developers and build the perfect thing and then hope they come, because that will, first of all, most entrepreneurs won't survive long enough financially to see it to fruition, because they'll burn up their runway of money. They won't be able to get investor money to keep going, or they'll run out of personal funds to continue. So start simple, start small, validate your idea that way, and only then, and I would say delay as long as possible seeking investment. I mean, if you can not complicate your life with that, to try to bootstrap your way early, if possible, or with maybe friends and family or whatever, if you have that concept. But that would be my advice, is to make sure you're solving a problem that needs your solution, and have that evidence before you go out and spend a lot of money and time uh, with professional developers and front end people and this, that, and the other. So again, I made a lot of these mistakes myself, and I know, I may not. I don't know if I'll have another venture in my future or not, but I think I would go about it a lot smarter the next time. And so I hope that hits your question a little bit.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think it applies to people that aren't even in the tech side of things. Just if you have a concept you're trying to, get out there, and maybe a unique way to deliver financial education or a unique way to do something, if there's a large front end cost to executing that, taking bite-sized pieces, minimally viable product, I think is key. When we did our first big events, Money X Live, we spent a lot of money initially. Just we had a lot of sponsors, but we hit during the financial crisis, so about half dropped out. We had to
Yeah,
come out of pocket, but it was a huge production. We didn't have proof of concept then. After we had the first one done, then it was easier to get sponsor money and so forth into actually earning revenue. So I think if you can showcase that you're able to execute and you have a vision, there's a need, as you said, you have a vision, you have a plan to execute, and you have a pathway to keep your investment down as you're figuring things out. I think that's a great path to go. It minimizes your risk. So again, if anybody has any unique product, not just a tech product, I think his guidelines
yeah,
are great to do.
yeah, and be prepared for the unexpected, because it's always going to happen. You mentioned financial crisis hitting in your journey there. When I first really began looking at this, and we shifted to developing the core API, and I was really focusing on the banking industry at that time. I knew a lot of bankers, and I knew what the API could do for their analytics. for credit underwriting and
Interesting.
offering budget automation for their clients, but also, alternative credit metrics for people who don't have good FICO scores and so forth. There's a lot that the core API can do. And right when I was going into a lot of those conversations, the pandemic hit, and every bank in the world went heads down on PPP loans and surviving. So they weren't going to talk
Yeah.
to they weren't going to talk to Craig and his fintech startup. So
No,
I
no,
actually
it
I
was,
set everything aside for a couple of years, and then I came back to it maybe about 2 years ago with that idea of education and
mm,
building a front end that was what we have today, towards a predictive, simple occupation based methodology, something that maybe we could adapt to the education market one day, which is what grad budget became. So that's that's where we are. We've got a long way to go, but I'm excited about the future, and hopefully some of these viewers can be part of our success one day, and happy to hear from them.
yeah, and just a final wrap up question for you. Let's go 10, 20 years into the future. What would you like to see of the financial education industry? What would you like to see as far as how we're, educating our youth? What's that ultimate vision that you would have, and what do you think the world would look like if we're successful on that vision?
Well, I think personally, I think I'm pretty aligned with your statements of there's a lot more practical, pragmatic things that need to be taught. I think at the school level, financial responsibility. It's going to take a whole lot something different than just a 20 hour, of a one semester class or whatever to do that. But here's just example. Way back when I was a high schooler, and we had home ec, we had shop class, we had some practical things that we did that we learned. We actually learned some hands on things that served us well through life. Um, I think most of that's been dropped now from curriculum that I see.
True.
But there are life skills that I think we may there's limited time in education to teach everything, but there are a lot of, I mean, everybody's going to need those life skills. A granular handful maybe are going to need some of the things that we took. But I'm not downplaying the importance of somebody being a chemist and science and all this kind of stuff. Um, but how do we balance all that out? But I think I would like to see the education system have a a, a track in it that is life skill focused. And I don't know how to figure it out at what age appropriate, but from everything we could put the heads together of people who are going to design that curriculum of life skills, and certainly financial education is going to be a key part of it. And I think that needs to include how to make decisions, better about what career you go into, and understanding what the landscape of the cost of living looks like and so forth, rather than a fire hose of content, quiz, theories and things like that, and people taking tests, they memorize it and they check the box, and then they graduate, and then life hits them in the face, and you know, there's a lot of stuff they didn't learn. So I'd like to see a life track, a life skill track added to the education market downstream, so that I'm a new grandfather. I got a 1 month old grandson, so I would like for little,
Congratulations.
thank you. I'd like for little Noah to have a track of that teaches many more things in school than that are life skill focused than perhaps is out there today. So that's my
So,
soapbox.
yeah, well said. I would concur. I want it for Noah. I want it for the country. I think it just help people avoid a lot of the problems. So, Craig, it's been wonderful having you here. Please let people know how they can get in touch with you. If you have a website, if you do anything via
Yeah,
LinkedIn, just let people know how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, I'm out there on LinkedIn, Craig-T-Hill, but you just search Craig Hill or Spendid, SPENDID, and you'll find me. The website for the grad budget product is gradbudget.com. And our corporate site, which links to everything, is at spendid.io, SPENDID.io. My email is, my name's Craig Hill, so my email is chill@spendid.io, CHILL at spendid.io. So I welcome hearing from anyone wants to talk about what we're up to. Um, Again, I'm a sole founder of this entity. I'm looking for partnerships in this space for people who want to make a difference, and that's why I'm happy to serve. On the Illinois chapter of the advisory board, the NFEC. So, but there's a the opportunities are plenty, and so hopefully Spendid and I will survive to see it through. And I just appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. I really do.
I mean, Craig, it's been great. I appreciate your efforts in the space. I mean, it takes people with courage to leave an industry they're comfortable with to start something new, really focus on making a
Yeah.
difference and
Courage
helping
is one
kids.
word. I mean, my wife may call it stupidity, but right now, I'll go with courage. So,
Hey, you look at the greats in the world, and people don't remember the people that aren't stupid or courageous, right? Some people call me stupid too for leaving a high paid industry as well back in the day. But
yeah,
I think that's how legends are made. That's how when you're going for a dream, when you're going to make a difference and create a legacy for yourself and your family. I think that's where that happens. So I appreciate your efforts and everything you're doing with this product line and SPENDiD and the grad budget. And I appreciate you being here today.
happy to. Happy to. Thanks, Vince.